Hey yogis, nice to see you. It's lovely to check in with you on this beautiful day, and feeling inspired to, just in front of the holidays, something that can help us to feel really anchored and yet strong and kind of open and expansive, but at the same time, so we'll have some movement. But then I thought it'd be really great to end with some really nice low to the ground, restorative, relaxing yin postures. So let's go ahead and have a seat. And just for your own information, I've got 2 blocks and I've got 2 blankets that are we're gonna use for some propping probably along the way. So I am seated on a block, as I would always do, just because I feel like I can sit taller when there's something under my bottom. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm just gonna have a sense with my eyes closed of how the space around me feels and how my body feels sitting where it is in this particular condition. And maybe notice how the sits bones are connecting to the seat, and maybe no matter how your legs are arranged in any way at all, just have a notice of how the legs feel in relationship to the earth, and have a feeling of how the exhalation invites you to feel that quality of gravity kind of inviting you into its hug. And so I'm closing my eyes. You could have your eyes just gently open if you care to watch what's happening. And so now, as I've invited the body to this practice together, I'm going to start to have a look at how the breath is arriving in the nasal passages and out the nasal passages for the most part. We breathe in and out of the nose so that we can stay in the part of the sympathetic nervous system that keeps us calm. Lovely. And so if you're hearing what's around you, you may hear a sprinkling of notes from the music that I have behind me. What I would like to say is, if there's some music that you'd like to play, please do so. All right, so we invite the body, we invite the breath, and we invite even the meanderings of the mind. And in some way, the breath and the body kind of softening and being expansive and contractive reminds the mind space that there is an opportunity to kind of quiet down a little bit. Lovely. So really just going to, I thought it might be nice to, I've been thinking a lot about truthfulness these days, and the word in the land of yamas niyamas, the 10 tenets that we like to follow in the practice, satya is truth. And it isn't only about telling a truth, it's really more about a concerted effort to pay attention and have awareness to truth as it arrives in your experience around you, in your own body, whatever's happening around you, to be able to have clarity enough to understand what the truth of the moment is presenting. And having said that, then an experience of the truth that you're bringing out to your existence, like out to the world. What is it that you're offering out there? Is it a truth, or is it maybe a non-truth? And so really, honestly, just let the sound of the word truth, satya, land somewhere in your mind, heart space, kind of floating around with the breath. And honestly, just let it be what it's going to be for you. We don't need to unpack it. We just have to understand that that's kind of the theme of our practice today. Lovely. So I'm going to draw my hands to my heart, and slightly different opening than I would normally do. I'm just going to have a kind of a wonder about curiosity and inquiry about what it is that I'm here for. And not even attaching a word to that, just an intention. And then I'm going to notice the touch of fingertips and fingers and palms and thumbs, and a little bit of an activation of the arms, a little activation of the pectorals and the core, sitting nice and tall. And I'm going to use an in-breath to point the hands all the way up to the sky. Nice. And I'm going to use an exhalation to open those arms and even send my gaze around to have a sense of the space around me. So we're going to be orienting kind of differently on the mat today-ish. And then in-breath, come on back up. Maybe you can reconnect with that intention right here, and then exhale, draw it back in. And so we'll do this a couple more times. In the meantime, what I'd like to be talking to you about real fast is when we're extending the body. I talk about this maybe sometimes. That's an in-breath, right? We're reaching out of the body with the in-breath. And then as we come back into the body, that's exhale. And then we in-breath, we get nice and tall and expand out in all of our shapes. Expansion on the in-breath. And then exhale is when we're going to come on and invite ourselves back into the body experience. Nice. One more time up. We're going to come. And this time I'm going to send my gaze over to the left and take a little spin and use hands, a little bit of leverage on the floor behind me and the leg that the fingers are attached to. And then in-breath, come on back up to center. And then exhale. And as I'm moving like this, I'd like to reintroduce and offer the idea of a kind of resistance, a kind of moving your body through some kind of material or substance or something that would slow down the movements a little bit. Okay, so then the body has an opportunity to really experience all of the movement, not just the beginning and the end, right? Nice. And then come on back to center. And just a little bit different than what we would do. What I would like you to do, please, is remove your block and position yourself kind of at the back of the mat for child's pose for a moment. I have the arms outreached, and I'm it's kind of reaching the arms around, but at the same time, I'm placing the hips as close to the ankles as possible, and I'm sliding a little bit side to side. Okay, and then I'm going to use the breath to inflate myself up to a table shape. Now, it's really unusual to do this, but we're going to use pigeon pose as a marker pose today. So I'm going to draw the right leg in and set up for pigeon pose. Now I'm going to stay nice and tall first. And I have this cool little trick that I love. I've got the back foot flexed, right? The left leg is flexed, the heel's pressing away, the knees off the floor. So I'm really elongating the front of the left leg in a really luscious way. And plus, as I'm pressing the heel away and the toes are curled under, I'm activating the bottom end of the nervous system actually at the bottom of my feet, called nadis. And then I'm going to go ahead and let that foot relax and really lengthening from the front of the toes all the way, honestly, up to the front of your head. So it's a kind of a beautiful, tall pigeon pose to start with. So it's very active, and there's a whole lot of breathing. The breath comes in the nose, and I like to call it nose to the toes breath. And then on an exhale, I'm just going to really briefly, I'm going to come down just for a little bit for the reclining pigeon. And while I'm down here, I'm going to have a visit with the conditions, the sensations, the quality of the shape in my body. How's the breath showing up? Where are the sensations? Where are the traffic jams? Where's the ease? That kind of an assessment. Cool. And maybe just make a little mental screen grab of how this is feeling for you, because we're going to visit it later and see if there's something different, if anything has shifted. And then come on back up. Cool. And then I'm just gonna exit the right leg back and spin into a couple of cat-cow shapes. Nice big in-breath sends the gaze up, the tailbone up. And the exhale sends the gaze all the way down the mat to between the knees and beyond the feet. And then the in-breath sets me up with a neutral spine so I can draw the left leg through this time. And you'll notice I'm gonna curl the back toes under and get off that back knee if it's possible. It may not be in your range to do so. You could be way up here if you need to. You could also place a block here if it helps you at all. Nice. So we breathe tall, really literally in breath the nose. See if you can feel that breath traveling all the way down to your toes. Press the heels away, elongate the right front of the right leg. Kind of nice, isn't it? And then nice and slow, I'm going to relax the back foot, settle into the shape as best I can. See to it that the hip bones are both, in some sense, fairly level and equal on the plane, front and side to side. And then use an exhale to deposit myself down to that reclining pigeon. Just for a really brief visit. And again, this time, what's happening in the body experience, even the mental experience, any emotive qualities showing up? How's the breath? Make a little screen grab of that again. Press yourself on back up. All right. And so here comes cow and cat. Love this shape. I'm sure you've heard me mention it. I feel that this is such an amazing physical way to illustrate how the breath moves. Exhaling here, right? That's that contraction. In breath, there's an expansion, right? Or expanding out, right? And so that's in breath. Exhale. We're kind of curling back in. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to start to curl the toes under. And I'm going to exhale, the knees are going to lift, and it's super slow. I'm going to press myself to down face dog. Nice. And once here, I have this convenient gaze of my feet. So I'm going to spread those toes nice and wide. I'm going to see to it that the feet are roughly hip distant placed. You know, some days are different. Some days you feel like you want them a little wider. Sometimes you want to have them together. Listen to what feels good to you. After I just sort of describe it, find a place that feels good to you always. And then we'll take a nice slow walk to the front of the mat. And there's those feet again. Hey, how's it going, feet? And then I'm going to forward fold and land the hands on the low back. Nice. And then I'm going to in-breath. I'm going to fire up the backs of the legs and the press of the feet to the earth to come all the way up to a reaching tall mountain pose. Slide the blades down. See if you can find some spaciousness at the top of the shoulders. Nice. And reconnect with that inarticulated intention for your visit today. And once we land back here to our Ajna Mudra at the hands, at the heart, maybe close the eyes for a minute and think, what's truth showing up? What's it telling me right in this moment? Okay, nice. So I'm going to in-breath the hands up a little bit like we did when we were seated. And then exhale, bending those knees for the forward fold. And then in-breath, halfway lift. Me, I got my hands on my shins. I'm pressing the fingers into the shins to see if I can elongate the spine away from the hips. And then I'll exhale, fold again. And as I halfway lift, I'm going to rise up the right leg and deposit it behind me so I can find Crescent Warrior, which has both sets of toes pointing straight ahead, the heels floating up over the toes in the backyard there. And in breath, here comes the arms. Nice big reach. Hey, you know, if you need your hands to be down here, absolutely a great option, or something like this works too. Me, I'm going to raise those hands on up, reconnect with my truth, come on back to my heart, and just for the heck of it, I'm going to send the heart forward, boosh, there it is, right? Send the gaze over to the left and come into a nice little already spin of the spine, sending my gaze to the back of the mat, but for you it might be more kind of a straight ahead thing. Nice. And then in-breath back to center, and then reframe that left foot. And then we're gonna hop ourselves forward to the front yard. And here's where we can reconnect with earth, with the feet, with the legs, with the core, the arms flying high for mountain pose. Boy, it's really pretty here today. And exhale. Where's your truth? In breath. Exhale, fold. So we'll visit the other side. You'll see the shape from this side this time. The in-breath halfway lift. I kind of like the floating arm things. I think you guys know that on that halfway lift. And then reaching, really reaching and thinking and looking, where is that foot going to go, that left foot? That sends me back up into Crescent Warrior here. You know you have options for all of these shapes. That's the truth. Sending the gaze to the right, making just a light touch of elbow and knee. Now, you've seen this shape with the elbow high. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying check it out if you let that elbow come down and use some leverage on that knee and elbow connection. Maybe your gaze can come back a little bit easier. But it's always going to be about how does it feel for you, what's working for you. So we'll reframe and put a bend in that front knee so I could hop the back leg forward. Cool. Exhale, forward fold and in-breath. I'm in the back, some of the legs to get myself all the way back up tall. Nice, exhale. So we'll do one more little sequence in this direction. And just try a different shape, right? Not gonna tell you. In-breath, halfway lift. Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, folding. Gonna send the left leg back again and my gaze all the way back. So this time, I'm setting up for Warrior Two and you're gonna see me backwards. That's okay. Heels are lining up. There's a right angle here. There's a stack of knees and ankles. And I'm gonna peel myself first into a nice kind of low reach. Right arm coming up. And then I can come on into my Warrior Two shape from there. All right, and I'm just gonna breathe it a few times. I think it's useful sometimes to see the postures in both directions. I hope that's okay with you. I'm talking to you still. Nice, and then exhale. And then reverse. Gonna exalt, send the gaze up if I can. But sometimes it's nice to send the gaze to the back foot for something different. Nice, you guys. And then we'll come into side angle, elbow, knee, reaching that right arm, and this time completely in the opposite direction of the right foot. Nice, and then I'll come back up briefly so I can spin through, reframe that foot, and hop the back leg forward. Nice. In breath. Exhale. Try something different if you'd like. You could lace the hands behind you and come up all the way tall. The truth is, that's a lot. And then in breath, here we go. Exhale, reconnecting. Cool. We'll check it out on this side this time. Exhale, fold. In breath, halfway lift. This is an actual shape here, guys, by the way. You know, it's not a bus stop. That was one of the favorite things I ever heard a teacher say. This time the left leg is going to come back. I'm going to watch that foot travel. So it's about 4 or 5 feet behind me, behind the front heel. And then again, I'm going to find a little kind of high side angle. High. And peel myself off, in this case, the right thigh. Send a gaze forward to the front hand and maybe, just for the heck of it, arc the gaze to the back hand. See how everybody's looking in the backyard? Then I can watch the back hand come down and send the gaze to that front arm again, the right arm. I'll use an exhale to lightly connect the elbow to the knee. and find that nice long side angle. I hope that you can notice there's this awesome trajectory from the left heel to the left fingertips. And I'll come out ever so briefly, just enough to use an exhale to windmill myself back down. Come off the back heel, raise up the back leg. It's going to join the right, forward fold. Nice in-breath all the way tall. Yay. And exhale, come on down. All right, so this time, what I'd like you to do from your front yard is you're going to step yourself wide in a way that you can see me. I don't know if that's left or right for me. It's left foot is going to come back. And so I'm stepping wide. Feet are kind of parallel to the outer edges of the mat. And I'm going to in-breath here. And exhale, just return yourself back home for a moment. Close your eyes for a second and just see if you can notice just a slight shift in the energy of your body. I'm not sure what time of day it is for you, but I hope that it's beneficial. Lovely. I'd love you to send your gaze to the back of your mat and to pivot around so that the back toes are facing in that direction and the front yard toes are parallel to the front end of the mat. And so then here is where we can find warrior two again. Okay. Nice, you guys. So we're just going to bend and straighten that back knee. And I'd love you to have the experience of pressing the back foot into the earth as much as you're pressing the front. And then land into the shape. Beautiful. Then we will straighten that leg one more time. I'm going to follow the back hand's gaze and slide forward so that I can set up for triangle pose. Great place for blocks here, by the way, guys. There's so much detail about all of these shapes, but all I will say to you is kind of have an idea what the structure is. Find the integrity in your body, that you're not holding your breath, and just let it be. Let it be a shape that you need to make. For some people, it's way up here. For some people, it's way down here. But you want to make sure that that spine is nice and long and you are able to breathe. Beautiful. And then I'm going to come back out. And then back to center. And we'll switch to the opposite side. Okay, now we're gazing at the front yard, probably. And I'm going to bend that front knee and straighten. And bend. And straighten. I'm going to move this guy. Lovely. One more time in. Really feeling into the strength of the legs, the press of the feet, the breath elongating your spine away from your hips. Reverse your warrior. Nice. Just a slightly different entry. I'm going to start to straighten the front leg, and the arms are going to fall parallel to the earth. I'm going to use an exhale to follow this hand's gaze forward. And then reorient the arms like a compass rose north and south. Beautiful. So I love to remind you of the idea of not dropping in and kind of sinking into the shape, but this shape is here, but we're still really strong, reaching off of all of the axes of joints and all the connections and all the hinges. We're not sinking into them. We're still reaching open. Beautiful. And then we'll come on back out. And we'll straighten the feet parallel to the edge of the mat again. Let's put the hands to the hips and just start to draw a circle with your tailbone on the floor. Beautiful. Nice and slow, and then we'll reverse it. Okay. I'm coming to neutral. I'm going to send the toes out a tiny bit so that reassigns the way the hips are connecting. So as I open up the heart space and start to tip forward, your legs are naturally going to do what they need to do for the the hip joints and the pelvis to be able to fold forward. Lots of people like to use a couple of blocks here. I'd say let's do that. With a waterfall of fingers. In the front of the block, there's a nice straight line from the shoulders down to the wrists. Beautiful, you guys. So I'm going to really secure the right hand, and I'm not mirroring you right now, that's okay. Send the left arm up. And then exhale. And then in-breath. And exhale. We're always loving to make sure that we're using the 6 major movements of the spine. You've heard me say this. Nice, you guys. And then go ahead and return, deposit both hands to the block or to the earth. In my case, it's going to be the earth. This time the toes are going to come in and the heels out, so I can really completely spill into as much of a range of forward fold as is available. Now here's another fun trick with blocks. You know, the blocks are nice because it brings the floor closer to us. That's all it is. All right, starting to think about where your back of your mat is. You're going to walk yourself over to that end and pivot yourself so that the back knee drops. And you can climb with, it's a low Ajnasana, low lunge. Nice, you guys, right to the heart. So one more time, we're going to do a little spinal spin. That inside long leg arm is going to come down and the bent legs arm is coming up. And then exhale, reframe that foot, come off the back knee, pivot yourself around so that now, in my case, I'm at the front, the back knee surrenders down. And then I come up to this beautiful low knee lunge. The inside hand comes down and the outside arm comes up. Exhale, reframe. Nice, you guys come off the back knee. Come on back to center. Walk the feet a little bit closer. Horse pose is showing up. Placing the elbows to the inside of the knees, and there's a kind of a nice press there. That helps to open the legs externally. Nice. And then I'm going to climb a hand to the top of a knee and another hand and press myself up to horse pose, imagining the hugest horse you've ever seen. All right. Nice. And then hands right to your heart. So we're settling into this fairly dynamic fold of knees, bend of knees. And you'll see that I'm traveling a little bit side to side. And the reason I do that is I really like to get the feet will naturally arrive in a way that I feel balanced, okay? And then the other reason I a little bit side to side is to get a little extra fluids in the hips for those of us who are stiff, all right? And then I see if I can lift the pelvis, okay? Lift that energy. At the same time, a little bit surrender the hips down. So there's a lift and there's a surrender all at the same time. It's a pretty cool trick, yeah? Then the arms are gonna float out and there's gonna be an exhalation. I'm gonna give myself a hug. Take a picture of your palms on top. So you can stay right here. You can take a break if you need to, or you can come back down to your pony. You're gonna make a hook out of the downstairs arm and see if you might be able to spin that arm into a pretzel shape. Beautiful. So you can stay right here. You can in-breath and come on up. And you can exhale, come on all the way forward. So nice in-breath up. Just one more. Exhale. Meantime, what's happening, there's fairly dynamic press of elbows together here. So the shoulders are widening. Feels kind of great. And then the breath is going to float those arms out. For me, it's the left arm over this time. Downstairs arm makes a hook. And you spin that arm around. We'll drop into the shape. In breath up and out breath. In breath up and out breath. Anyone feeling the legs? I am. Yeah. Come on in. Y'all have done some harder things than this, I know. I know there's a lot going on in the legs. That's okay. So I'm going to use an in-breath to come into a star shape. Yay. And then the arms are going to come all the way up and then back down. So try to see if you can deeply connect with your eyes closed. First with the way your feet are placed on the earth. And the energy that's coming up your legs, through the hips, up your spine. It's really amazing prana energy, upward energy. And fingertips are touching, fingers are touching the outer edges of the palms and the thumbs. There's a little cavity where the palms are. Right? And then we're circuiting the thumbs to the sternum, closing the eyes and checking in here. A couple of breaths. Pretty vibrant pose because my hands are pressing pretty dynamically and my feet are isometrically trying to slide toward each other. It's helping me to stabilize the shape. Nice, you guys. So what we're going to do now is just a little more flow. So in breath, up we go. Exhale, send your attention to the back of your mat. And immediately into warrior two, facing the back of your mat. Nice. And then right on into exalted warrior. And then into side angle. And then lifting yourself out of that. One more time, side angle. Ardha Konasana. Come on up. Lovely. And then exhaling, nice low lunge at the back of your mat. In breath, nice and tall. Exhale, come on down. Pivot yourself around to the center of your mat again. Breathing from horse pose all the way up to star shape. Exhale back to warrior two, front of the mat this time. Here's an in-breath. And here's side angle. I'm clinking. Here's an in-breath. And side angle. And one more time in. And then we'll reorient ourselves, frame the front foot, release the back knee down, breathe yourself up. Nice. Exhaling. Go ahead and come off that back knee. Send that leg through. And you could flow here if you love to, taking a moment or two in up face dog, Urdhva Uttanasana, and then exhale. Sorry. This is down face, that was up face dog. Beautiful. Breathe the shape. Very nice. In breath, the right leg floats up. Stationary safely, the left foot and the two hands. Put a bend in the right knee. You might be able to open that hip up a little bit. And then straighten the leg. Exhale, elbow, knee. Sweet, come on back up. Exhale, float, return the right leg. We'll do the same thing on this side. Floating the left leg up. I'm gonna put a bend and see if I can open up the hip, but keep the press of the hands equal. And then return to that high leg. Use an out breath to connect the elbow and the knee. And then come on back up. Alrighty, so remember I mentioned we're going to revisit that marker pose. This is a good place to do it here. So one more time, the right leg comes up. And I'm going to elbow knee again because I'd like to really contract in here as much as I can. So I can send my gaze below my chest so I can figure out how I'm going to arrange that right leg. Oops. All right, so here we are again. Now with any kind of luck, something feels a little bit differently this time, or not. That's okay too. But for my money, I'm going to take a little slide side to side. Nice. And then go ahead and relax the back foot. Breathe myself nice and big here. That's that expansion piece, right? Exhale, exhale, exhale. So you land yourself into that pigeon shape. And you try to, return to that screen grab you did earlier to see if there's a difference or not. I'm going to guess there is. And we'll just breathe a couple of breaths. As long as you're down here, might you be able to move the breath in a way where the in-breath and the out-breath are equal in measure. So sweet. And then the first thing that will slowly come up is the head, and you'll reorient. You'll send your gaze down to your mat, so your hands will land kind of where they were when you were in down-faced dog before. Again, I'm going to curl the back foot under, and I'm going to use a big exhale to float the right leg up, and then exhale, float it back down. And you might as well take a chance and opportunity to really fold those knees in a few times. And then reconnect with your down-faced dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So it's the left leg's turn, floats up. Exhale, elbow, knee. So very much of a contraction in. Send my gaze right down here so I can see, geez, what's the best way to arrange the left leg in front of me here? And here's where a blanket could come in handy. Sometimes or always or not. Just a little bit of a corner under the, in my case, this hip, because it wants to ride up, help this hip feel at the same level. So in-breath is the expansion, and exhale is kind of the surrender. So you'll stay here for a couple of breaths. And I'll just return you to that idea of what is your truth in this moment. Am I approaching this asana, this shape, in a way that is most beneficial and most speaks to my truth of how I would like this shape to feel? There's an equal effort and ease involved in that. There's an ability to be able to breathe easily. When we go beyond that, we're kind of reaching around what the truth is of it a little. Hope that makes some sense, right? So that the head comes up, and then you'll replace the hands where they were for that down-faced dog's left leg comes up for a moment. And then exhale, you'll just deposit yourself to the middle of your mat, and I'd love you to get a blanket of some sort. And we'll start to move into some down low, restful, anchoring, chill out kind of shapes for the rest of our practice. So this is a landing pad for your hips. So when you come forward and your hips land here, the hip creases, this bendy part, this hinge of your legs arrives right here. So I'll show you what that looks like. There's the hinge of my legs, and it's right at the back end of that blanket mound. So it's just enough, a little bit of a rise up of the hips. Here's the option. You could have 2 of those blankets. If you feel that you would like a more dynamic experience at the hip flexors. So we start in Sphinx pose with the elbows depositing right under the shoulders. In our yang practice, it's pretty fired up, right? We really fire up the muscles and we really press into the earth. But in this case, in the yin and the restful restorative shapes, we allow for everything to slump. It's kind of lovely. And then we take a block. Really great investment, by the way. And here I deposit my forehead. So literally nothing is holding anything. It's just some bone structure, the top arms, the humerus muscles, humerus bones. Nice. And just noticing the weight of your head, releasing and surrendering into that block is quite lovely. Softening the back of the neck, the top of the spine. For those of us who sit with hinged hips, in seated positions all day, this could feel really amazing. So we'll stay here for a breath or two until ultimately we ended up with about a minute or two in this absolutely restful shape. And please just know that anytime you need to manage this in a slightly different way, if inside you is saying, I really need the elbows elsewhere, or I really need my shoulders to be elsewhere, or my legs to be elsewhere, that's your truth showing up. Okay, so listen to that and let it happen. Make all those little micro moves so that all of our shapes, all of our asana, whether they're active or not, become more available to us. I'm going to say 5 more breaths here. Might be really awesome to notice how the in-breath, your belly presses to that blanket mound and inflates a puff of air at the sacrum. So there's ample opportunity to soften out that low back. Okay, so this next iteration of this shape is optional. It could be enough just to kind of come up out of that shape a little bit where your head leaves the block. It's also, this is called seal pose, where you will pretend your hands are flippers, kind of reaching out and wide, and the elbows will start to straighten. So there is a bit of vitality in the arms, but the rest of me is, like I love to say, this is like I'm at the beach. I'm just kind of, on a beautiful beach, on a perfect mat in perfect weather. You could close your eyes maybe and summon that. If at any point in this shape you notice compression at the low back or somewhere that is unreasonable, you have the option of coming down a little bit out of this. However, if you're finding your truth of this experience is there's compression, but it's okay in some way. There's, for me, definitely, I'm feeling like this press. This is actually pretty beneficial if you could manage to be in this condition with your low back. So again, this is going to be a visit for about 2 minutes ultimately. When we get ourselves in these parking spots, I like to say, you don't want to lose the parking spot, right? So you nudge yourself in, and then we're looking for absolutely stillness, That's what we're looking for. So 5 more breaths here, my friends. Very nice. I'm hoping there's 3 more breaths here. And then when you get to the bottom end of that 3rd breath, you'll really just take the elevator down back to your elbows. And ever so briefly, let that head slump forward again so you can really achieve the benefit of that loosening up of whatever's happening in your upper back. And with your head on that block, you slide hands to the top of the blanket. This gets fun. It's like a little magic trick here. So what we're going to do is start to press into that blanket mound, press our hands down. And first visit with a tall table pose, but then widen the knees and send the hips back and use the blankets to support the arms for your head to drop through. Now, it may not be available in your shoulders. There's a really easy trick to that. Let your arms go wider. And if you can't quite get your head to the earth, you could take one of the folds out of that blanket mound and set something up for your head to land on. We do love to make sure that arms, heads, things, all the body parts connect to the earth. And in this case, in such a way that I can still breathe. So it's my forehead here, but my nose is down here. So you guys are going to be staying here for another minute or so, and I'm going to just sit up for a moment and just chat a little bit more about the idea of truth. It's a really useful tool to have in your toolkit, the idea of truth. And when we have a clear vision of what that is in our minute-to-minute, day-to-day activities, well, with any kind of good luck, you have a kind of honed ability to be able to articulate your meaning, to be able to really speak words succinctly and clearly that state your needs, whatever that is. That's a really vital truth. It's got to be obvious. The thing that's really intriguing is that that's quite a mysterious experience for a lot of people. Me too. Sometimes we feel that we need to, and maybe rightly so, hold that truth in for a minute. But there are times that we really need to be able to speak the truth, and without an agenda, without emotion, simple fact. Simple truth. So what you'll do from where you are is you'll come up and have a seat briefly, just like I am here. And this will provide us an opportunity to, in my case, I've got 2 blankets. It's great if you could have 2. These blankets are nice because they roll up nice and tightly, actually. So what we're going to do is unfold them enough so that we can stack them and make a rolled up bolster kind of thing. All right. And then I'm going to set this in the middle of the mat and have my 2 blocks handy. All right. Now I'm going to have a seat on the floor with this big blanket roll right behind me. And I'm going to start with the legs out long. And like I said, have the blocks nearby. And then I'm going to deposit the spine. It feels so good. Deposit the spine. You might have to nudge forward. You're going to want to make accommodations for the low back so that you can come all the way down. The first thing that's likely to happen is that your shoulder blades are going to probably all smush all up around your ears. So make sure the blades are low behind you, as they would be normally instead of all smushed up. And so that frees the arms up to rest the hands on the blocks. So as I mentioned, you may choose to have your legs long here. Also, just make sure your elbows are on the floor and that your hands are resting just absolutely peacefully on that whatever it is blocks that you have. So first, legs could be just nice and long. The other option is to fold the knees because there may be some really valuable release at the low back for you there. You'll place the feet in a way that you don't have to hold your legs up So in my case, I'm tipping the knees together. It looks like a little teepee, a little tent. So this is an option which is lovely for those of you whose hip range is fairly limited. If you're someone whose hip range is absolutely excited about the idea of butterfly pose, that means you're going to make your feet into a prayer shape, right? Little foot prayer. And then the legs will just come out. Now, if you're lucky enough to have 4 sets of blocks or something available, quite possibly to just lightly support the outsides of the thigh bones. In my case, I really prefer this, even though it looks like, oh, you know, what's the big deal? For me, it feels safer to support the legs a little bit higher up than my range. So you have lots of options here. We'll stay here for a little bit. This will be the kind of most significant restful pose we'll do here. So I would invite you to close your eyes. And then reconnect with the utility of the breath in your body. Be kind of madly curious about its arrival in the nose, the puffing up of the low belly on that in-breath, the diaphragm pressing down. And then exhale, the surrender of the belly and all of the contents of the organs back down to earth. And so now we're in the space of the breath. The onlyest thing that I'll ask you for here is simply to follow the track of the breath in and out for a fairly significant amount of time. And as you start to kind of realize the lusciousness of this way to breathe, this way to be, just breathing, just hearing the rhythm of the breath, just feeling its temperature, just noticing its reach, you won't be surprised to find out the quietude of the mind space. And so we continue to follow the gorgeous gift that is our breath. And the next thing you know, you're in the exact condition for meditation and know how to find this place on your own, on your back, seated, anywhere. Simply following the pattern and the condition and the cessation and the arrival and departure of breath. It is that simple, it is that tricky. So you'll stay in this lovely conditioned shape for a little bit of time. Just taking a ride on the breath. And as you continue to experience the lusciousness of this really simple practice, I'll quickly read something from Yoga International. Satya, truthfulness, the second of the 5 yamas, restraints, described in the Yoga Sutras, guides us to think, speak, and act with integrity. The word sat, which means exists, that which is, satya, therefore, is seeing and communicating things as they actually are, not as we see or perceive them to be. So things in truth as they actually are, not the stories that we as humans draw up almost every time something happens, right? So returning to the breath, take this opportunity to lengthen your bent knees if they are other than long on your mat, and then reach the arms overhead, lace up your fingers, and take advantage of this blanket roll under your spine, elevating and opening the front side of your body. You're going to point the toes and temple mudra, your hands, and point those fingers in the exact opposite direction of the toes pointing, elongating not only the physical form but the breath. And then use an exhalation to return yourself up to a seat. And so we'll remove the blanket, the nice little spinal support there, and come all the way back down to the mat for the most important posture of the practice together here, for Savasana, resting pose. So we deposit the bones in a way, legs long, arms long, spine long, in a way that will absolutely turn off the use of muscles and connective tissue and really everything. Maybe even let the head roll side to side so that you could ensure that the neck feels soft and held. Have a notice from there of the way that the shoulder blades have assigned themselves behind you, and see if it might be more useful to slide them down and a little bit closer so that maybe there's a bit of an opening at the heart space as your arms are wide-ish. If you have a blanket or if you have something nearby that you would love to place over you to hold the body's warmth in, it's a very, very lovely idea. And also for those of you who have eye pillows or anything laying around that you might like to place over your eyes, please do so. So as you lie here, reconnecting to the person that is here now in your experience, maybe slightly different than the person who showed up an hour ago. And then I would gently re-invite you to that simple notice of the breath. A notice of the temperature of the space around you. A notice of the comfort of the bones surrendering into the hug that is gravity. And the ever so kind of almost ocean-like wave of the breath as it moves the basket of the ribs open and the basket of the ribs back down in. in a sense, the tidal breath. For just a few minutes. And when it's time, I'll cue you just with a gentle prodding to return back up to a seat. But for now, rest. And so the onlyest thing that I would ask for you here is just to reconnect with the movement of the breath. Allow yourself the experience of maybe a bit of mind blown at how it continues to serve us. And doesn't it then make sense that we continue to serve our breath, our body, our mind with this kind of practice, this kind of visit, as much as possible? And so you'll curl yourself over to your right side into a little tiny baby shape. And let your arms make the shape of a hug on you. And maybe feel the eruption of a little smile on your face, because you know you're hugging your best friend. And so you and your best friend will return back up to a seat. You'll sit nice and tall once there. Just have a notice of the space around you, reconnecting with this here and now. And reconnecting with body, reconnecting with mind, inviting only what's necessary to continue you into the evening or the rest of your day or morning or whatever it is for you. Why don't you go ahead and make this little sweet little shape of hands in front of the heart. Why don't you go ahead and drop your gaze down there and let that shape open up and collect whatever it is, that to help you hone the skill of establishing and clarifying your truth as much as you can today. And then press the hands in and really kind of seal that in as an idea. Nice long in-breath, my friends. Exhale a sigh. And take a bow. Namaste. Thank you so much for caring for yourself in this way. And I will see you again, Breathe, Move, Shine, next time we meet. Thanks a lot.